In my coaching practice, my specialty is analytical thinking types, especially INTPs, ENTPs. Um, and there's one thing that I hear very consistently from pretty much every NTP I work with, especially straight white men. And this thing that I hear every single time really reveals quite a deep, potent blind spot that all these people have, and that I myself had for many years and still have, but I've done a lot of intentional work around it, and um, it harms me less than it used to, but it still is there very often. And today in this video, I want to explore this blind spot, explore this thing that I hear everyone say. And I'm going to give you a 5-step process to begin the work of overcoming it. So, what's the thing that all these thinker types tell me? In my first coaching session with people, one of the things that I open with is explaining that in order for our coaching relationship to be successful, we really need to trust each other, right? And obviously, the more you're willing to open up to me, the more I can help you. And of course, that can be hard. That can be scary. So I have to earn your trust. And that's going to be a process that we're going to go through together. And almost inevitably, with a lot of my clients, but especially the NTPs, especially the straight white guys, when I say this, when I talk about how important it and how challenging it's going to be to fully open up, they say, oh, don't worry. Don't worry about that. I'm an open book. I am fully transparent. Yeah, ask me anything. Ask me anything you want, and I will give you a fully transparent, fully vulnerable, open answer. I used to believe that about myself, too, for many years. I thought nothing is off limits. I'm an ENTP. I'm willing to talk about anything, debate anything, reveal any part of myself. I'm so introspective, I'm so self-aware that any possible question you can ask me, I will just open up the file inside me and empty its contents willingly. And there is some truth to that. Many of us NTPs really pride ourselves on introspection and knowledge and being willing to explore many perspectives of an issue and say the hard truth. Tell someone the harsh thing that other people will soften or gloss over. We're going to be the truth tellers. We're going to tell it like it is. And yeah, that can often be very helpful. It can be refreshing. But if this is you, if you feel like you are a complete open book and completely transparent, then I want to challenge that. Because, again, that was me for many years. And now, after all this work that I've done, I realize just how much I was fooling myself. I was not an open book. I thought I was. I really convinced myself of that. But what I think is actually true for people like I was is that we are completely willing to be open in sharing our ideas, our analytical ideas from the thinking mind. We're very open about that. We're very willing to debate, to play any side of the issue, to explore perspectives, ideas. Yes, we're open books there. But that is just one small piece of the puzzle of who you are. And what I've realized is that there's there are so many other layers of the psyche, of the self, that aren't even accessible a lot of the time to us. So you might actually convince yourself that you are completely transparent, completely vulnerable, willing to share everything, simply because you're not aware of how much you're hiding from yourself, how much you've numbed yourself. So it's like looking around the room and saying, like, yeah, I'm willing to show you all the stuff in this room. But you're actually in a giant house and you're just in one room right now. So you're willing to display everything that's in this room. But what about all the other rooms in the house? And when we're talking about vulnerability and what's really most important in life, like the juiciest stuff, the deepest stuff, often those are in the other rooms. Those are not the shiny ideas or the debates. Those are the feelings, the somatic body sensations, the intuitive hits, the needs. I'm experiencing a need right now. Because often those are the types of things that either we're unaware of, we're not sufficiently aware of to be able to voice them, or I would argue that often you probably are aware of some of those things, and you might think of yourself as someone who's totally willing to say anything, but I bet there are parts of yourself that you censor, that you edit, that you know there is a need there, there is a request there that you could make. Right? If you were being 100% honest, if you knew you were not going to get in trouble, you were not going to get hurt, that it was completely safe to voice whatever you wanted in that moment, I bet there's all kinds of stuff that you could say that you've purposely chosen not to. Right? So if you are under this delusion that you are 100% transparent and willing to talk about anything, willing to share anything, then I invite you to examine it from that angle. What are all the needs that you have in each moment? What are all the requests that you could make in each moment of someone else, and you choose not to because it doesn't feel safe, it feels too scary, it feels too uncomfortable? Right? So I think specifically some of the areas where we censor most often are around social interactions, romantic relationships, sensuality, needs around touch, issues related to money. So if you really believe that you're 100% transparent and honest and open in all of those areas, then I suspect you have a lot of work to do, as I did, and as I continue to do. I was just at this amazing festival in Texas built around the total eclipse. And it really illuminated for me just how often I hold back, even though I consider myself to be such an open person. You know, compared to the average human, I am willing to answer pretty much any question that people ask me. You know, super intimate stuff. I'm very open, even with people I barely know. And yet, this festival was such an opportunity for me to notice all the small social interactions, because it felt outside my comfort zone. I traveled halfway across the country and barely knew anyone. And this particular eclipse just brought up a lot of big emotions in me. And it was a very deep experience for me. And so I felt tender and raw, and I was noticing all the ways that I protected myself. small things like if I had, um, begun to form a connection with someone and then noticing some kind of attachment forming of wanting to hang around them more. Like, oh, where are you going next? Which activity are you going to? And then noticing like, oh, I hope they ask me to go with them. I hope they're willing to let me tag along, right? Or oh, that person like sitting at a lunch table. I see someone approaching. I hope they choose to sit next to me. Right? All these little things. But I choose to not voice them in that moment. Right? Like in the first example, I could have said, oh, you're going to that. Would it be okay if I tagged along? Could I go to that with you? Or, the lunch example, like, hey, do you want to sit here? Right? There are just so many small micro interactions like that in social situations. Small ways that fears can come up, like, do they like me? Do they want me here? Is it okay for me to join this conversation? I see a group of people. Can I just kind of sneak my way in and hope that I'm welcome? Or did that person leave because I arrived? Right? Is it okay for me to sit next to this person? Is it okay for me to put my hand on their back? Right? Just so many little things that I think the vast majority of us do not voice out loud. And yet each of those things could have a request. If we were being fully transparent, we could say, hey, I'm wondering if this is okay right now. I'm wondering how you feel right now. I would like to do this. I would like to put my hand on your shoulder. Is that okay? I would like to sit next to you. Is that okay? How do you feel having me here? Is this going well for you? Are you enjoying yourself? Right? There's so many ways that we could be checking in. And so I think that this is such a wonderful place of potential growth, especially for thinker types and NTPs, to really get in touch with all these little feelings that can come up in us. So I want to give you a 5-step process for doing this. Step 1 is acknowledging the truth that maybe you're not quite as transparent and open as you think you are. Maybe you are with your ideas, with your thoughts, but are you with your feelings? Are you with your needs, with your desires? Could you have room to grow there? I bet you could. I sure did. Step 2, really learning to understand your preferences, your desires, your boundaries, your yeses and nos. If someone asks you for something, are you willing to say no? Are you willing to ask for something that you want, even if it seems scary? Right, for me, partner dancing has been very beneficial in this. Going up to strangers and asking, would you like to dance? It can be very scary to get a no. And even after all the work that I've done, I still notice how often I intentionally protect myself. Like, oh, this person looks a little too attractive. This person looks a little too cool. I'm not going to ask them because they might say no. I'm going to ask this other person who seems more approachable, safer. Right? Step 3, learning to assess what is actually safe, when it is safe to be transparent, to be open. And I think this really points for me why I said that this false transparency applies especially to straight white men like me, because I think that people who have identities that have been more marginalized have more practice with protecting themselves by wearing masks and keeping distance and purposefully not being fully transparent, because often it's not safe, because of racism and sexism and other isms. Often being fully transparent, being fully open is not actually safe physically or emotionally, politically. And so we straight white men have less practice with that. less practice with the need to protect ourselves. And so it's kind of easier for us to say, oh, sure, I'm an open book. I'll answer anything, right? And so that's a kind of privilege that we have. But I think it also means that we're not as skilled at really noticing what our no's are, what our yeses are, and is this person safe for me to be even more open with? Is this a situation and a person that's safe for me to really crack open some of those deeper layers of myself, to go into those other rooms in the house and display those parts, those vulnerabilities, those emotions, right? And then if it is safe, step 4 is learning to notice what you're feeling. Notice your needs. What is an unmet need that I have right now? Like, wow, I'm feeling really lonely right now. I could really use a hug. I could really appreciate some touch right now. I would really appreciate some validation right now. I really want to feel belonging right now. Right? What is the need? And how could you ask for what you want? What is the request that you could make? Instead of just hoping someone's going to notice, someone's going to rescue you, what could you ask for? And then step 5 is dealing with the consequences of that. So you can make a request and someone might say no. That's life. They might negotiate. You might say, hey, are you willing to, let me sit next to you with my arm around you? Say, oh, well, no, I'm not willing to do that, but I'm willing to sit near you if we have a little distance between us. Cool. All right, so I'm getting some of my request fulfilled. Not the whole thing, but I'm accepting that this person is telling me what's true for them, setting a boundary, and we're meeting in the middle to get both our needs met. So the 5 steps again: acknowledge the truth that you probably need to work on this. There's probably some parts that you've hidden or numbed. Number 2, understanding your preferences, desires, boundaries, yeses and nos. Step 3, assessing the safety of the situation and the person. Step 4, learning to notice your feelings, name them out loud, ask for what you want, make a request. And step 5, cultivating the resilience to be with the result of that, which might be a no, which might be a negotiation. So again, I encourage you to look for opportunities around social interactions, romantic interactions, money, all these kinds of issues or places where emotions can tend to flare up, and see if there are places where maybe you're not quite as open and transparent as you thought you were, and maybe those are areas that could be ripe for exploration and experimentation. So I'd love to hear how this lands with you. If you want to share in the comments, and I hope you have a nourishing day.